Last night, Major League Baseball had their Field of Dreams game, and as I watched Kyle Schwarber's second home run bounce off Luke Keyshaw over the FanDuel sign and into the corn, I really couldn't help but laugh at the irony. If you're not familiar, Field of Dreams is a 1989 film where Kevin Costner's Ray builds a baseball field in Iowa that summons the ghosts of the White Sox players involved in the Black Sox scandal, including Shoeless Joe Jackson. The film was based off the book Shoeless Joe by W.P. Kinsella, which takes a relatively romantic view towards Jackson and the Black Sox. The day, 8 men were banned from the game of baseball for taking money to throw the 1919 World Series that the White Sox played against the Reds. They fell behind 4-1 in a best-of-8 series before eventually losing 5-3. The case went to trial in 1921. Despite 4 of them admitting guilt, including Joe Jackson, they were found to be not guilty. When it comes to Jackson, he said he got $5,000, was supposed to get 20, but he maintains that it never affected his play on the field he played to win. He had 356 in that World Series, but he had 250 in the games that they lost. There's been some questions as well about his defensive play in the outfield. I want to tie this to something deeper. I don't just want to say Shoeless Joe was involved in gambling. There shouldn't be gambling ads. I want to talk about the why behind all this stuff. Both moments are just massive examples of greed from Major League Baseball, where in the end, the player will get blamed. The owner of the White Sox at the time was Charles Comiskey, who was essentially Ebenezer Scrooge. White Sox were consistently excellent. They won the World Series in 1917, but this guy was famous for undervaluing and underpaying his players. It seems like Charles was a bit of a gatekeeping, two-faced scumbag because back in 1890 in the Players League, when he was active as a player, he was part of a strike. Baseball at the time said that players could not say no to a contract. If they did, they could not play professional baseball anywhere else. Players were essentially the property of their current team. There was no union. They had absolutely zero bargaining power. The problem was not just with Charles, the problem was with baseball, but you had Shoeless Joe making $6,000 a year, which was less than half of many of the stars at the time, and he is one of the better players in baseball history. On an equivalent of about $115,000, which is a good salary, but when you think about what the owners were making at the time, that is not fair compensation. Open the door for people like Arnold Rothstein, allegedly, and organized crime, the New York mob, to get involved and offer players a little something on the side. $5,000 Shoeless Joe Jackson got, that was almost the equivalent of his salary for the year. This scandal comes up all the time in American entertainment. It's part of The Godfather Part 2. It's part of The Great Gatsby. It's a big part of Boardwalk Empire, the first season, which is very good. Recommend you watch it if you haven't. Coming back to the game today, there's some extra irony because Shoeless Joe started out his career in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is also permanently tied to Pete Rose. People focus on his gambling. I focus on the fact that Pete Rose is a pedophile. Fast forward to today, you have Bryce Harper doing cameos for gambling addicts, right? Calling out FanDuel by name in that video and then saying, oh, I didn't know it was for FanDuel. Now Congress is demanding be investigated and cause change. Star players in Emmanuel Clase being indicted over alleged gambling. This being plastered everywhere normalizes it for the fans, normalizes it for the players as well. If you think players are not going to people in person, having conversations on the side about bets that should be placed, and then dealing with them in cash later on, you are a moron. It is definitely happening. But at the end of the day, the root cause of this and this is just the greed of baseball, and that fact should not be ignored.